Every human being shares a primal, almost haunting desire, the hunger for a legacy that defies the laws of nature. We want to build towers that touch the clouds and cities that outlive our names. But in the blistering heat of the Arabian desert, that desire has just collided with a $1.5 trillion wall of reality. As of February 2026, the world's most ambitious construction site has officially become its most expensive ghost town. The dream was called Vision 2030, but the reality is something far more chilling: the Great Reassessment. This is the moment where the city of the future reveals itself to be a high-tech cage. It was supposed to be a miracle of engineering, a 170-kilometer mirrored wall cutting across the desert, housing 9 million people in a car-free, zero-carbon utopia. But look at the satellite imagery from this morning, February 24, 2026. The mirrors aren't stretching to the horizon. Instead, they've been amputated. Official reports confirmed last month that the line has been radically downscaled from its massive 170-kilometer length to a mere 2.4-kilometer starter segment. They aren't building a city anymore. They are building a prototype of a city that might never be finished. The line is now a fragment of a dream, a tiny mirrored strip in a vast, indifferent desert. When you spend $50 billion before the first resident even moves in, questions start to arise. Since the launch in 2017, the NEOM project has been a vacuum for global capital. But in 2026, the money is running dry. With oil hovering at $60 a barrel, well below the $90 to $110 needed to fund these giga projects, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, is finally blinking. They are realizing that even the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world has a bottom. The mirage of infinite wealth is evaporating, leaving behind half-finished concrete skeletons in the sand. This is no longer a construction project. It is a controlled financial demolition. In Riyadh, the vision for a new Murabba centered around the Mukaab, a colossal cube-shaped skyscraper designed to be large enough to fit 20 Empire State Buildings. It was marketed as a gateway to another world, using AI-driven holographics to change its interior environment. But if you visit the site today, you won't see a futuristic hub. You will see a suspended construction site. On January 27, 2026, work on the Mukaab was officially halted beyond soil excavation. The world's largest cube is currently just the world's most expensive hole in the ground. The official word is a strategic pause, but the cranes have stopped moving and the silence is deafening. Perhaps the most absurd luxury was Trojena, the planned mountain ski resort in a region that rarely sees a snowflake. It was scheduled to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games, but logic finally won the war against ambition. Just weeks ago, on January 24, 2026, the Saudi Olympic Committee confirmed the Games have been indefinitely postponed. The dream of skiing on artificial snow in 40 degrees heat has been shelved, replaced by a resequencing of priorities. The snow in the desert narrative has melted under the pressure of fiscal reality, leaving investors wondering if the mountains will ever see a single ski lift. If there is one success story, it's Sindala Island, the luxury yachting resort that held its grand opening back in late 2024. But even this success comes with a closed-door catch. As of February 2026, the island remains largely restricted to the extreme elite and state guests. It is an 840,000 square meter playground for the 0.1%, protected by facial recognition and biometric sensors. It isn't a city, it's a gated community for billionaires who want to park their super yachts away from the prying eyes of the public. On Sindala, the cameras aren't there for your protection, they're there to verify your net worth. Before we dive into the data center pivot that is currently transforming the Saudi desert, I have to ask, do you want to keep seeing the truth behind the world's most guarded gates? This channel, Closed Door Lux, is dedicated to investigating the architecture of the 0.1%, the bunkers, the private islands, and the trillion-dollar mirages that the mainstream media refuses to scrutinize. If you want to stay ahead of the great reassessment and see the evidence before it's deleted, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We are a small, independent team fighting the gatekeepers of information. Your subscription is the fuel that keeps these investigations alive. Join the thousands who have already decided to look behind the curtain. So, what happens to a $1.5 trillion city that has no people? You turn it into a machine. In a desperate move to salvage the investment, Riyadh is shifting its focus from human habitat to data hub. NEOM is being rebranded as a global leader in artificial intelligence. Instead of housing millions of citizens, the coastal segments are being repurposed for massive data centers cooled by the Red Sea. The city of the future is no longer for you, it's for the servers that will run the next generation of AI. The mirrors of the line will no longer reflect the faces of residents, but the hum of high-performance computing clusters. For the 300,000 people still expected to live in the 2.4 kilometer starter segment of the line, the cost of luxury is their privacy. NEOM isn't just a city, it's an operating system. Every heartbeat, every purchase, and every social interaction is monitored by a digital twin AI. In 2026, the surveillance luxury of Saudi Arabia means the city knows you're sick before you do. It's an environment where convenience is the bait and total data extraction is the hook. The C2 Command Center is now the heart of the city, a room where every citizen is a data point on a glowing blue map. Why did this happen now? Follow the money. The Public Investment Fund is the engine of Saudi Arabia, but even engines need fuel. In early 2026, reports emerged that the PIF is mandated to cut spending by a minimum of 20% across its entire portfolio. Last year, construction contracts in the kingdom plummeted by nearly 80%. The fund is now pivoting away from trophy projects to focus on the 2030 World Expo and the 2034 World Cup. The grand architectural statements are being sacrificed to pay for the global PR stage. The lifeboat is being downsized to make room for the stadium. Beyond the steel and glass lies a darker reality. The unsealing of tribal records in early 2026 has shed light on the displacement of the Huaytat tribe. 20,000 people were cleared to make way for a city that is now mostly a data center. When we talk about absurd luxuries, we have to ask who paid the price for the dirt beneath them. The cost of these closed-door projects isn't just measured in rials, it's measured in the erasure of heritage for the sake of a futuristic mirage. Homes were destroyed for a line that ended up being a fraction of its promised length. What we are witnessing in Saudi Arabia is the birth of modern feudalism, a system where a tiny elite owns the land, the data, and the resources, while a digital underclass services the machines. The luxury of NEOM is a promise of safety in a chaotic world, but only if you follow the rules of the algorithm. It is the ultimate expression of the 0.1%'s desire to disconnect from the rest of humanity and live in a curated, mirrored bubble. This isn't just a Saudi problem, it is the blueprint for the global elite's future. The mirrors of the line were meant to reflect the beauty of the desert. Instead, they are reflecting the hubris of their creators. In February 2026, the line stands as a monument to what happens when infinite ego meets finite resources. It is a warning to every other billionaire trying to build their own lifeboat. You can build the most advanced city in history, but you cannot build a soul into a machine. The desert is reclaimed by the sand, and the mirrors eventually crack under their own weight of their own vanity. The dream of $1 trillion paradise is over. The reality is a high-tech survival pod where your luxury is measured by how much of your privacy you're willing to trade. When the world's most powerful people start scaling back their dreams, it's time for the rest of us to start paying attention to what they're building instead.